Imagine coming home from work exhausted, too tired to cook, and the idea of leftovers is not appealing. Then you catch a whiff of red chili baking in the community house, and you remember you signed up for the meal tonight with your community. Since it's not your turn to cook or clean up, all you have to do is sit down next to your neighbors and enjoy a delicious, organic meal. No dishes to wash afterwards. No dishes. Imagine being left helpless after a major accident or illness. That's what happened to me. A snowboarder slammed into me and left me with multiple injuries, bedridden for 3 months. Fortunately, I was not alone. I live in a co-housing community called the Commons. Co-housing is community at its best. During my recovery, my neighbors took turns delivering me home-cooked meals every single day. They showered me with comforting words, massaged my feet, and drove me to my appointments. So, what is co-housing? It's not a commune. It's not a cult. It's like an old-fashioned neighborhood where you own your own home and you jointly own the community house and community lands. There's plenty of privacy, while at the same time there's a feeling of belonging and mutual support. Just last week, I was making breakfast and discovered I had no eggs. I sent a quick email to my community, and within 5 minutes, a neighbor was at my door, eggs in hand. Back in 1991, I had never heard of co-housing. I was living with my 2-year-old son outside of Santa Fe in a spacious house with beautiful views of the mountains, but something was missing. I felt lonely, disconnected. Later that year, I heard about a group forming a co-housing community on the edge of Santa Fe called the Commons. I did a little research about co-housing and sensed this might be the perfect place to raise my son. I took the scary leap and bought one of the 28 lots to build my new home. It turned out to be one of the best decisions I've ever made. It provided a safe and happy place to raise my son. He could run around with his friends freely without worrying about cars. And it's been the perfect place for me to practice medicine. To reach the clinic in my home, patients walk along pathways lined with little flower gardens, through placitas with big shady trees and tall grasses. When they enter, I often hear them say, "Dr. Elliott, it's so peaceful here." Right now, there are 75 of us living at the Commons. We range in age from 6 to 96. A few of our many children were born in their own homes, and some of our elders chose to die in their homes, surrounded by family and friends. My friend Yvonnes was a proud and feisty English woman who lived life on her own terms, and she intended to die on her own terms. Last year, at 94, Yvonnes began a rapid decline from advanced cancer. She insisted she was going to die in her own home at the Commons. On days I went to visit her in the last few weeks of her life, I often saw children sitting on her couch doing their homework after school or reading her stories. Sometimes I climbed up onto her bed and lay next to her, holding her hand in mine. We asked Yvonne if she had any special wishes for her memorial service before she died. She said, "I want my memorial service before I die. I want to be there." After several days of preparations, we gathered around her at the community house to celebrate her life with stories, poems, songs, skits, and a flood of love and laughter too. A few days before she died, she said to me in a weak and raspy voice, "I'm dying, yet these are the happiest times of my life." It sounds idyllic, doesn't it? Actually, that's how it feels much of the time living at the Commons. But it's not utopia. Living in cohousing has its challenges. In the early days, when we first formed our group, we had to learn how to live with each other in community. We each had our own strong views of how things ought to be. We struggled to reach agreement over issues both big and small. One of the bigger issues we struggled with was whether or not to use pesticides within the Commons. The disagreements became so contentious, we had to hire facilitators and mediators to teach us the skills how to live together and negotiate conflict and build consensus. The eventual outcome was a mutual agreement not to use toxic chemicals on the property, thankfully. More recently, we had difficulties reaching agreement over a seemingly small issue, whether or not to install a community clothesline. Now, that might sound like a simple decision for you, but some people had strong concerns about aesthetics and potential loss of property value. The pro-clothesline group lobbied in friendly and creative ways, like sending postcards from Europe with pictures of castles and neighborhoods with colorful clothing hanging in the yards. We found a way to compromise and agreed to install the clotheslines out of view. Even disagreements and conflicts are part of what build a rich and vital community. Because of our struggles, we learned valuable interpersonal skills. We learned how to really listen to each other and respectfully take each other's opinions into account when building consensus. We even learned how to accept our neighbors' quirks while at the same time appreciating their strengths. I know I've become a better person from living at the Commons. I don't have to get my way with every decision. I'm less dogmatic, less judgmental, more trusting in the collective wisdom of the group. Imagine living in a place where you're surrounded by a supportive network of neighbors who share your joys and sorrows, like what happened to Yvonnes before she died, and what happened to me after the accident. Imagine living in a place where you have the opportunity to really grow as a human being, a place where you can learn the skills to get along better with others, and the skills to more wisely navigate conflict. Wherever you go, those skills will serve you well and make the world a better place. I can say personally, after living at the Commons for almost 25 years, that communities make the world a better place, and cohousing is community at its best.